My name is Maribeth McFaul, and today I'm going to teach you how to do a 3D street painting. Our theme is butterflies, and I'm going to explain a little bit about the process and the materials that you'll need to complete a street painting either in your community, in your driveway, or even possibly just on paper in your house if you can't access asphalt or concrete. Let me just tell you a little bit about myself first. I'm a painter. I like to paint in watercolor, and I just completed a series of watercolors. Here's an example of one of my watercolors. Welcome to my studio. This is my indoor studio, so I'll start out inside at my home, and then we're going to go outside and I'll show you how to do a street painting. A little bit more about me. I am working with Claire's Place Foundation because I actually saw Claire interviewed on CNN a few years ago, just before her lung surgery, which she unfortunately did not survive. I was following her, and I happened to see her mom on Instagram, and she was in Laguna Beach where I show my art, my paintings, and I said, hey, I'd love to donate a painting to your Claire's Place, the Clarity Ball. One thing led to another. I ended up painting live at the Clarity Ball, and the painting that I painted was sold in auction, and the proceeds went to Claire's Place Foundation. After that, I decided to use Claire as a theme at the Reno Chalk Festival, where I did a street painting of her portrait, her face, and I won first place. And I also worked with Claire's Place Foundation to create a mural at Miller Children's Hospital in Long Beach. So Claire and the Claire's Place Foundation is very dear and near to my heart. Since COVID-19, I have created a series of butterfly street paintings. And the idea is after a period of isolation and loneliness, such as what we're in now with COVID-19 and the quarantine and social distancing and all of that, the idea is that perhaps we will change and evolve like a butterfly from a caterpillar to a butterfly and become a better group of better community or human beings and maybe improve the world in some way. Just trying to take a positive spin on a very difficult situation. So typically after I finish a street painting or even before I start, I'll come up with a quote. And the quote for today's street painting is, "Open your heart and mind like the wings of a butterfly. See then how high you can fly." And that's a quote by Zinat Aman. All right, so let's get to what we need to do for a street painting. First of all, you need to find an image. So what I do before I start is I will Google, in this case, butterflies. And there's a lot of butterflies available on the internet. So I found this one, somebody else's version of a monarch butterfly. And you can choose, these are just for reference. We don't copy it 100%, but it helps to have something to look at, especially if you're just learning how to draw something. This is another one, more of a 3D version that I found on the internet. You can see the shadow, which makes it look really 3D. Shadow helps a lot. And then here's a third one. So my theme today is butterflies, and I'm going to focus on the monarch and use a variety of these images for my street painting. Okay, so some of the materials you're going to need. Number one, you need chalk. And the chalk, my favorite chalk is this Koss brand, 48, a box of 48. You can order online. National Art Supplies has it. It's in the post I put a link to where you can order this chalk. You can also use Dick Blick, which is an art supply store. They have nice pastel chalks. These are not oil pastel, it's just regular pastel chalk. They come in a stick, kind of like this, in a variety of colors. There's a box of 24. The box of 48 is about $15, $16. The box of 24 is about $10. And these do actually last a really long time. You'll see when we get to working. If you don't have time to get them today, You can watch my tutorial, watch along with me, and then get yourself some supplies later on. I'll compare it to the chalk that they usually sell for children that has very little color. That chalk can be pretty discouraging because it doesn't have much color. Sometimes I'll use that chalk for lettering, or I'll use that chalk for my whites, my light highlights, but generally if you're doing something colorful, you want chalk that has more pigment in it. So that's the chalk. I'm going to need a measuring tape, one of these pull out, depends on the size. Sometimes my chalk pieces are up to 12-foot square. So this one happens to be 25 feet. Today our chalk square is going to be 6 feet by 4 feet, so it won't be quite as large. You're going to need paper. If you can't find a source concrete or blacktop that you can use for your drawing, there's this paper you can get. Let me show it to you and you'll see it. Today I'm actually going to use it outside in my driveway because in my community we're not allowed to chalk in our driveway. So I did it one time and found out the hard way. Other places I generally prefer to use the concrete or the blacktop. So I'm going to use this black paper today. This is available at Home Depot. It's called GM Craft. There's a 60-minute and 90-minute, I think. It's designed to use for building, but this paper works really well as a substitute for a blacktop. And it comes in rolls of 30 feet by 3.5 feet. Sometimes I've done it where I tape two together and make it like 5 feet by 6 feet. So I'll show you a little bit more about that when we go outside. You'll need a pencil. Just have a pencil handy. Sharpie for marking your lines. You'll need some tape, masking tape. I like this blue painter's tape. When I go outside and sit down in the ground, I use a carpet square. Sometimes cardboard and knee pads are good, handy. Of course, you don't need these today, but you'll see I'll probably put these on. And if it's really hot, I don't expect it to be today. It's January, but sometimes the street painting we'll do in the summer gets really hot. We'll use disposable gloves for two reasons. One, for the hot, when the concrete gets hot, or the blacktop especially, and also it keeps your hands clean. These come in small, medium, and large. A little harder for younger people to wear. I've also gotten the little gloves, finger gloves, where you can just cover up a single finger, and that's kind of nice too, because the gloves tend to get a little sweaty. Then when we go outside, I'll show you a few of the other items that I use. I use a dowel for drawing. If I want to stand up and draw first, there's just a stick, and I'll show you how that works. And make sure, if it is a warm day, regardless, I always have my sunscreen in my backpack, and I bring my handy hat, one of my hats, to keep the sun out of my eyes. I will also show you, I forgot to talk about this one item, a string to make my grid on the street. This is not required, but if you make a larger piece, I'll show you how to use this string. It's used also in construction to drop a line, and it's a really cool thing to have. So I pack up everything in my trusty backpack, and I'll meet you outside. All right, well, here we are all set up, and now I'm going to show you how to tape off your square and get ready to draw. What I did at home inside before is I took my butterfly and I actually put this into a 3D program. You don't have to do this, but it's an option. BSA Sidewalk 3D. And it will take your image and stretch it so that when it's done, it will actually appear 3D. I did some math and I figured out that the best way to do this would be to do a 6-square grid. So my grid on my paper is 2 inches by 2 inches. And my grid on my street is going to be 20 inches by 20 inches. So you'll see how I'll do that now. Take a little mess. So the first thing I'll do is take my tape, and if I don't have the black paper, I would tape off a square in the street. So today I'm taping off my black paper so it won't blow away. And also, so that I can mark it with the lines that we'll need to create the grid. You know, a grid is also an option. It's not something you have to do, but it's a good tool if you're drawing something, especially if you're drawing something more complicated, like a portrait, something that you want the proportions to be accurate. A grid comes in very handy, and you'll see why right away. Alright, so I'm going to use my measuring tape now to figure out and mark my grid. So I had said I'm going to do on this paper a 20-inch square. So I'll mark this off in 20-inch increments. 20, 40, 60. And I'll do the same thing on the opposite side. And make sure I put my measuring tape right in the corner where the tape meets. And then I'm going to mark this one. 20, 40, 60. I've already marked that top edge, and I will mark this bottom edge with 1. All right, now I'm going to show you how to use this trusty snap string. If you don't have one, that's okay. You can use a long ruler. You can even use this tape measure and put the line from the 120-inch mark to the opposite 20-inch mark. Take a lighter colored piece of chalk and draw a line across. The other method that's fun, if you have one, is this drop line. These are also available at hardware stores. It's got some orange chalk in it. It's good if you have a partner, but if you don't, I stack up a couple of boxes of chalk to weight it down, and I pull it across very carefully, slowly, holding the line, the string right at the line at the bottom. Pull it tight and snap. And there's my middle line, and I'll do the same thing for this second line. It's going horizontally. And there's my grid. Oh, I forgot one more. One more line at the bottom. Line this up. Sometimes you need to reel it back in, shake it, get a little more of that chalk powder on there. Very slowly pull it out. And snap my final line. So as it turns out in this drawing, the paper is a little longer than I need it, so I'll use this bottom part. Maybe I'll use it for my quote. I also have what I call my eraser shoes. My Crocs are very good erasers if I get some chalk where I don't want it to be. All right, now it's time to do the drawing. I've taken my dowel, wooden stick, and I've taped in a piece of light colored chalk. This is a light yellow. The board chalk works really well for this job too. And what I'm going to do is look in one square at a time. So first I'm looking in this first quadrant, and I notice that the tip of the butterfly wing starts about maybe a little more than halfway up, and it curves around, and it stops on this line here. So I'm checking this distance from the side to the middle, and I'm checking this distance from the center of this big paper to the left side of the wing. That looks pretty good. Now I'm going to look at this next line in the square below, and it comes down to about maybe 3 or 4 inches from the middle where the lines intersect. Keep going. With this one, I see that this top wing bends in about halfway through this square and meets that line. Then I see a shape just a little bit rounder. Comes around about 1/4 of the way into this third square. I'm going to finish this part of the wing. I see the body of the butterfly. The head is about here. It touches that middle line. Then it's a long oval shape. About like that. And then I'm going to come up here and draw the other wing. And that one starts about, I'd say, 3 or 4 inches down. And it comes and meets the body of the butterfly. Curves around. Right here where these two lines intersect. And then it curves. There's a diagonal line down, about halfway. Curves around and meets it. There we go. Really quick. It's a lot of prep, but it gets my drawing done exactly as I want it. I'm also going to sketch in just lightly this shadow shape. Voila! Alright, next part is to add the details. So I'm going to start to add the shapes of the orange part. Sketching those in lightly. There's an oval shape. This is where the grid sort of helps because the shapes are all going to fall in the right place. So I see 1, 2, this one comes more like this. 1, 2, small tear shape, and then this larger shape comes down. Like that. The rest of this is going to be black. And I think I might do something fun in my background because this paper is already black. So we'll see. And there's some white circle shapes. I always leave my black chalk for last, and that's because the black chalk will get smudgy everywhere. So I'll do all my colors first, you'll see that, and then I will put in the black shapes last. Alright, it's time to add some color. Now, the butterfly images that I chose are monarch, they're orange, and reds and yellows. But you can do whatever you'd like. You can change up those colors if you'd like. It doesn't have to be exactly like this butterfly reference photo, but I'm going to use this one to get some ideas. And I noticed that this other butterfly that I chose, there's some differences, and this one here has more yellow in it. This one actually has some blue in it, which I like. So I'm going to kind of use all of these as a reference for my colors. I'll start with orange, but I'll also pull out some lighter orange and some yellows. And generally what I do to keep things neat, chalk gets very messy very quickly. I'll put them in the box lid, the colors, so that they don't accidentally get stepped on. And I also use a little clipboard to hold my drawings so they don't blow away. When you're outside, all kinds of things happen to your materials. And especially if you're working in a group with a lot of different people, it's helpful to keep your supplies a little more organized. Alright, I think I have my orange colors. And another thing I do if I'm working with a group is I will divide this and each person will take a section. So maybe one person would do these 3 squares and the other person could do these 3 squares. And then you can cross and check each other's work and work as a team. I'll start with the orange. In this section. And I'm going to blend this with my finger. And then I'm going to, on top of that, add just a little bit of this yellow on this one side. I have this lighter orange. I'm going to start with the base coat of this lighter orange here in the second section. I notice that it's a little bit lighter. Okay, so as I said earlier, it doesn't take a lot of chalk. These sticks of chalk will last a really long time. And then on top of this yellow orange, I'm going to add more of this true orange color. I like to layer the chalk. Put a little of this yellow into the cake. And you can see I'm going to start building up my colors. This will take a while. So, you go ahead and get started on yours, and I'll check back with you in a little bit. And that concludes our street painting for Self-Care Sunday this week. I hope you learned a lot and have a good time doing street paintings in your driveway. And also, I hope you take care. Be safe, stay well, and we'll see you around.